Congratulations, you guys are officially time travelers. That's right, you guys have already watched Phase 3 and I haven't even filmed it yet. How incredible is that? We'll come back to that, but today we're looking at this giant, custom Maestro vs. Wolverine or Old Man Logan piece. This is Phase 4 because it is the fourth statue in a highly coveted, sought-after line of Wolverine statues. I just want to get it out of my system right now. Look how big this is.
That's what she said.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. My name is Mr. X. This is the Extreme Channel. As I said in the intro, we have a long-awaited Phase 4. That's right, recently on the channel, you may have seen Phase 3, this piece right here. I actually haven't had that delivered. It gets delivered today or tomorrow, but it's going to air before this piece does. You've already seen it, so hopefully it's spectacular. My initial thoughts on this guy is I can tell you it is amazing. Now, if that's Phase 3 and this is Phase 4, this right here was Phase 1. It's kind of the evolution of Wolverine. Here he was as Weapon X. Now, I've actually never owned this piece. It goes for quite a bit of money, usually $3,000 plus on the aftermarket. But you guys know I've owned this piece right here, Phase 2. Now, this piece goes for even more money than that. It usually goes for $5,000 to $10,000 on the aftermarket. And you can actually see Sabretooth right next to him, which is done by the same artist that did all of these Phase pieces. And yes, there is a Phase 5 coming out. Now, all of these are highly sought after, long sold out private commissions. That's what customs mean. So unfortunately, I can't give you any information on where to get these. Today, we're going to do an extreme review. We're going to look at this in detail, and there is so much going on. So first, we're going to kick it off with concept. Now, the concept of this changes a little bit depending on your display options because you have some switch out options we're going to talk about in the design portion. But for the most part, it's Wolverine or Old Man Wolverine fighting Maestro. Now, Maestro is a version of Hulk from another universe that's obviously much older, and he's generally considered a bad guy. I actually have an amazing Maestro statue. You can check out the review of it right here. And I'm going to display him with all my other Hulk and Wolverine pieces, because believe it or not, I think I have 3 other ones. If you're interested to see what that looks like, check out the Extreme Channel Facebook and Instagram page. The link is in the description below. But let's start looking at the concept of this piece. So you can assume that maybe they just destroyed a building because on this concrete rubble base, you have a bunch of bricks and Maestro is actually buried in it, which we'll talk more about that in design. Wolverine is actually on top of him, suspended in air, and they are in the midst of battle. And you have a few different things going on. So they're both really pissed. They're showing their strength. They're showing their power. They're both battle wounded. So it's right in the middle of it. Now, one thing as we move up, you see that Wolverine actually has a bandage on his leg. So this is older. So this is in Wolverine's older life where maybe he doesn't heal as fast. That's why he would actually have to have a bandage. And as I said, they are in mid-blow. This is like taking a still shot in the midst of an amazing battle. Both showing their muscles, both fully roided out, both fierce on the portraits that we have displayed. And Wolverine is ready to stab Maestro again. And this is always kind of an age-old battle. Who would win, Wolverine or Hulk? And this is popular in the comics. This is popular in statues, as I said. There's quite a few of them. And it's awesome. It's truly a very cool piece. It tells an awesome story. And what I really like about this is kind of that evolution that we're talking about. This is Phase 4, and then there is a Phase 5. Phase 5, I believe, is actually the X-Force version of Wolverine, although I think maybe this one should have came after it. But I think Phase 5 was kind of an afterthought. So I love it. This is kind of the older versions of these characters. It's an epic diorama, which the last 2 were. In Phase 3, he was versus Sentinel. In Phase 2, he was versus Wendigo. So it's like it's showing the storyline of Wolverine. And if you owned all of them set up sequentially would look amazing. So I think the concept's fantastic. Some of the people don't like the fact you don't see Maestro's legs, which we'll talk about in a minute here. But I think it's a 5 out of 5 on the concept. Very action, very dynamic, shows both characters, shows their power, shows that it's a never-ending battle. Design, there is a ton of stuff to cover. So let's kick it off actually with all the different display options because there's a lot more than I thought there was. With Wolverine, and I call him Wolverine because you have 4 different portrait options. So first is kind of the Old Man Logan portrait with his mouth open and fierce. And this is probably my favorite, not only because he looks really fierce, because it kind of follows the storyline of him fighting Maestro. But you can do kind of a younger version of that exact same thing. And there are a few other differences on it, but it's pretty much the same exact thing minus the hair and a little bit of the expression. Then you have another Wolverine portrait with his mouth closed, kind of more of a sneer. Now, I don't like this at all. I probably won't display it because he just doesn't look as enraged as he should be against an opponent like this. And he has the Old Man Logan portrait as well. A lot of the same thoughts. So those 2 will probably go right back in the box. Now the other thing you see here is actually his dog tags. Now it's on a pliable wire, so you can shape it however you want, but you don't have to display it if you don't want to. Maestro, a lot of the same stuff. So first of all, here's a portrait with him just baring his teeth, but his mouth shut. I like this a lot. However, I like this one a lot more with his mouth open for a lot of the same reasons that we talked about with Wolverine. And just like Wolverine, the necklace is optional. Now this does have a keyhole in it though, so here's a picture again with him with the necklace on. And then here is a picture of it with it off. And then here's a picture without the necklace. And this is where the necklace keys in on the back. Now Maestro's hair actually covers it up. So that's very smart. If you didn't want to display it, you don't have to. And there were a ton of pieces to this, believe it or not. Let's take a look at the unboxing and assembly. One extremely small box and one very heavy box. I think it was 98 pounds. So I had the classic lid that they always do, a little bit of an art box with the classic black straps and the foam. 4 different layers, so they were all very large pieces when it comes to the base and Hulk himself. And then Wolverine and a few pieces of the base in the other layers. All right, let's get the dimensions as well. So the widest point, kind of hard to determine because it juts out in so many different angles, is almost 27 inches, believe it or not. Highest point is right under 29 inches. And then I have to say the deepest part is somewhere around 19 inches or so. So he takes up a ton of space. He's actually going to have a shelf to himself. Let's talk about the size of him because that kind of ties into Maestro's legs. So traditionally this whole line has been not 1/3 scale or 1/4 scale, but somewhere right in the middle. This one actually feels a little bit bigger than that to me. I think this is closer to 1/3 scale. Here's a picture of the portrait next to a 1/4 scale Wolverine. I don't have a lot to compare it to at the office. So again, I think the scale's a little bit off on this. It's a little bit too big.
That's what she said.
But for that reason, I really appreciate what they did with Maestro's legs. Like I said, you can kind of see this as maybe the building crumbled on them and you can't see it. If they did the full body of Maestro, it would have been another good 8 or 9 inches tall. So I think that was very smart. You saw during the assembly, I had a lot of problem because Wolverine kind of have to key his foot in at the same time, his knee in at the side, and then his claws right in at the same time. I had a lot of trouble with that and it's not fully secure. That could be because the weather makes the material a little pliable and it fluctuates a little bit. So you do see a little bit of the key on Wolverine. You can see it right here from the back. Not really a huge deal. I hope this will hold up over time. It seems like it will. So very ambitious on the design. Pretty much Wolverine keys into Maestro, who keys into the base, and then you have all those other pieces. Like I said, I don't like the fact I think it's overscaled, even with the current line. For those reasons, I think the design's a 4 out of 5. It's still done very well, but it's not perfect. Okay, paint and sculpt. I am really impressed, especially in the portraits, and I think you guys will be too. So let's take a look at the video. All right, first thing, let's look at the portraits that aren't on there, starting with the younger Wolverine. Now, it's done really well with the paint and sculpt. Look how clean it is. I like the hair a lot. It's just not my flavor with some of the paint on this too. It almost looks like he has makeup on, but look at the detail inside the mouth, around the gums. That is done really well. I actually didn't think I'd display this one at all. I'm not a fan of the unmasked portraits by this sculptor. I do have quite a few of his other pieces as well, besides the one we talked about. And then a lot of the same comments about the open mouth portrait of Maestro right here. Look at that. I love what they did on the inside of the mouth, the shades in his skin, and the way his whiskers are. And the sculpt is just amazing. This is such a great Maestro on the portrait here. I love the green enraged eyes. So we'll come back to the other portraits, but let's start at the bottom. I think the bricks and the concrete are okay. They're good, don't get me wrong, they're not bad, but there is a little bit of a plastic feel, and I don't know if that's the paint or the sculpt or a little bit of mix of that. And you guys have heard me say that in other videos before. But same thing with the bricks. Now these bricks are also oversized, like we talked about the piece itself with the scale. Maestro done really well. I love his pants. Here, this is kind of cool. You can tell Wolverine slashed him, but he already healed because he has a healing factor similar to Wolverine. Same thing down here. I like the texture of the seams. The gold belt he's wearing looks good. There's a little bit of caking on the paint, but nothing horrible. That's really the only defect for paint, but I like the battle scratches here, whether they're from Wolverine, kind of the bronzed look. The skin, I think they did a great job. I like the color of green they chose and the shading, and then you can still see some of those veins, and the anatomy is fantastic. Very roided out like you want a Hulk-like piece to be. The hands are huge, just a little bit smaller than mine. Some fantastic detail. Now the blood on here, again, it looks good. I think the blood on my ARP piece, you can check out the review on that. The ARP Clash of Powers is a little bit better. But those were hand painted by a professional painter, the sculptor's wife, I believe. Necklace looks okay. And here's his portrait. So again, a lot of the same stuff I said about the open mouth one. Love the beard. Wolverine, look at the detail in the shoe. The paint, the sculpt, looks like a real shoe. Fantastic. His jeans, a lot of the same similar remarks I would say about Maestro's pants. Look like real denim jeans. Pretty cool. The blood here on the bandage could have been done a little bit better. But some of the paint, incredibly clean. Like look at the wife beater he's wearing, and then when you get to the skin tones and the veins, and then the hair. You know, a lot of times hair on Wolverine's arm isn't done that well. I think this is phenomenal. Look at the detail in his belt. I love that texture, it really just adds to it. And again, here's his portrait. I love the oversized fangs, and that's in the other open mouth portrait as well. You can almost see some the veins in his temples, and I love the coloring they did on that. The bandage here could have been done a little bit better. That's really nitpicking. Metal claws, which is nice. This is phenomenal on both the paint and the sculpt. A lot of really, really great things going on here. All right, sculpt. So as I said, some of the Wolverine portraits, I think it's done very well. It's just not my style. I think Maestro is almost perfect in my opinion, and then a little bit of opportunity in the base. So I think the sculpt's a 4 out of 5. It's not perfect, but it's done extremely well and way better than most average things. The paint I'm liking even more. Incredibly clean, fantastic job. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I think it is a 5 out of 5 for a factory painted piece. Value on this. So they made 70 of these, and the original retail was 1,400 euros, which is approximately 1,900 US dollars in that range, depending on the exchange rate. And then shipping was another $500. So you're about $2,300, $2,400 into this. Now, if you're not big into statue collecting, you're like, wow. If you're not big into statue collecting, you might say instantly, that isn't worth it at all. Now, a few things go into this. The first two versions, phase 1 and phase 2, they sell for outrageous amounts over retail. This one is done incredibly well, so I definitely think I can get my money back. I think I could do more money than this because this really hasn't been done. this kind of diorama. It's different than a lot of the other Wolverine vs. Hulk dioramas out there. And because of its predecessors commands so much respect, I don't think this will flip for as much as like Phase 2 does. However, when that's all said and done, I'm at the point in my collecting career where I'm getting tired of buying $2,300, $2,400 statues. So I'm really torn whether the value is a 3 or a 4 on this. So why don't you throw that in the comments below? What do you think the value is? Is it a 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5? Throw that in the comments below. Let's talk final score, X Factor. Does this have the X Factor? Does it turn your head? Kind of a no-brainer, in my opinion. I think this is amazing. I really wonder how Phase 3 stacked up against this, and you guys already know that because you've seen that video. But really impressed with this piece. So happy I jumped on board. 2 of my favorite characters going to battle. The paint, the sculpt is done so well. The concept is amazing. It's a 5 out of 5 statue. This definitely has the X Factor on many levels. But thanks so much for tuning in. If you guys haven't noticed, I have tons and tons of new and rare statues being delivered right now. So if you haven't, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to tune in because we drop regular content. Take care.